Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Rachael Lee. I'm a local realtor here in Jacksonville, Florida. And today we are going to be getting into how to buy a home. Now, in one of my first meetings with a first-time home buyer when I got into residential real estate, I remember being shocked at the things that they didn't even know about buying a house and the process of buying a home. So when I went home that night, I immediately dove in and I created a guide for home buyers, first-time home buyers specifically, people that may not know the process or even know the right questions to ask a realtor or a lender. So I do have that guide available too. If you want to go down to the link in the description, you can go to my website or you can send me an email and I'll shoot you over that guide ASAP for you to look over. And if you have any questions, just let me know. But for today, we're going to get into the contents of that guide in video form. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. All right, so now that you've identified that you want to buy a home, the first step is really going to make sure that you're ready to do so financially. The first way you're going to do that is going to be your credit score. So you're going to want to check into your credit score. You want to make sure that you're using reputable sources. You shouldn't have to pay for this information. Usually your bank has some sort of way that you could go through, or there are plenty of ways online, Credit Karma, that you can go into that can give you a glimpse into your credit score. Oftentimes when a bank pulls your credit, it comes back a little different than websites like Credit Karma or whatever your bank is through. So you're going to want to make sure that your credit score is a little bit higher on those apps that you're using to look at it through, because inevitably the bank will come back with a little bit lower version of that in most cases. You're going to want to make sure you're at least in the 640, 650 range. That usually is going to be the cutoff for a lot of different programs and assistance programs and loan programs and ways to buy a house. Now, don't get me wrong, there are plenty of ways to buy a house if your credit score isn't quite at the 640, 650 range, but that will be for another video. The next thing that you're going to want to think about is your job. Have you been at your job for a stable amount of time? Do you have proven consistent income over the last 2 years or so? Now, the banks are going to be looking at your income and they're going to be combing through your application carefully to really prove that you're a trustworthy borrower and that you'll have the means to pay back the loan over the amount of time that they're lending it to you. So the next thing that you'll want to consider is savings. You'll want to make sure that you have a good cushion of savings to help get you through the home buying process. For a down payment, usually you can save about 3.5% for down payment. We could use an FHA loan or some other options. And then you're looking at between 3 and 4% of the total purchase price for closing costs and other home-related costs. There are other costs that will come up through this process as well. You'll be paying for an inspection on the home, as well as the appraisal here in Florida. That's something that the buyer pays standard for. Those things both are going to cost you about $600 or $700. So the second thing on our list today is going to be getting a good, trusted advisor, a realtor. Now, in most people's lives, this will be one of the largest transactions that you have ever purchased up until this point. Do you really want to go it alone? I know I am a realtor as a profession, so I am a little bit biased, but I will say even before I got into residential real estate, I always used a realtor and was glad that I did every single time. I also hear at the end of every transaction how wonderful and thankful that my buyers or sellers are that they used a good realtor, whether me or the realtor on the other side of the table at closing. Having a trusted advisor that has done this a million times over in your corner during negotiations and troubles that come up, hiccups, anything that could come up, having someone that's been through it before, probably multiple times, is invaluable. So that leads us right into our next one, which is getting a pre-approval. Now, pre-approval and a pre-qual are not the same. If you're typing in some information online and something's popping up, it's probably not going to be 100% accurate. So your realtor will be able to connect you with their preferred lenders, and you can contact all of them to kind of see who has the best program, who you fit with the best, and which one you want to go with ultimately. I would also encourage you to check out your local credit unions and wherever you bank as well to really make sure that you're going into depth, finding the best rates and the best deals for you. Now, during the pre-approval process, they're going to ask you for quite a bit of documentation to make sure that they have everything they need to give you an official pre-approval and for what amount. So they're going to be asking you for your last 2 years of tax returns. They are going to run your credit. They are going to ask for your last 2 months of W-2s or pay stubs, and they might even ask for bank statements over the last 2 or 3 months as well. Now, a lot of people at this step are intimidated by the fact that they will pull your credit. Now, most people don't know that when you're shopping around for a loan and you go and pull your credit at Wells Fargo, at your local credit union, and with the preferred lenders, even if they all pull your credit, the credit system actually recognizes that what you're doing is shopping around for the best rate, and they count it as kind of one inquiry, as long as it's within like a 35 day window, rather than counting it as, 5 or 6 different hits on your credit. So it's really not that big a deal, and it is a necessary step in this process to get you onto home ownership. So I do hear often, oh, why would we do a pre-approval now? We want to look at some houses first, and when we find the one, we'll get a pre-approval. Now, depending on what area you're looking in and what your market is like, this could be a detrimental mistake. So if you find a realtor that will even show you a home without a pre-approval and you fall in love with it, if it's newly listed or it's well priced, and even sometimes if it's been on the market for 30 days, you could all of a sudden find yourself in a multiple offer situation. And if you don't have a pre-approval, your offer is not even going to be looked at by the seller. Most sellers require the pre-approval to be sent with the offer, so that way they know if they're going to take their home off the market and call it, active under contract, they want to know for sure that you are able to close on it and you can afford the house. Now, another reason to do a pre-approval before moving on to the next step is to avoid heartbreak. Now, I can't tell you how many times I've heard these stories from other people, other buyers, that they saw a house, they fell in love, they went to go get a pre-approval, and they could not afford the purchase price on that house and all the houses that they had been looking at. Once you look at that price point, it's really hard to take your pre-approval and go look at homes significantly lower, especially if you've already fallen in love. Another reason is you might be like me. When I went shopping for my first home, I thought for sure I was going to be in a certain budget range for my pre-approval, but when it came back, it was significantly higher, and I was able to purchase a much better home in my ideal neighborhood rather than looking elsewhere like I thought I was going to have to. All right, so once you have the pre-approval done and in hand, you're ready to go. You're ready to start into the next step, which is the research phase of the home search. Now, in this research phase, your realtor is going to set up a search for you in the MLS. So that way you'll automatically be notified either on the hour, every day, or weekly, depending on how serious you are and how ready you are, of new homes that come on the market. Now, your realtor should be able to tailor this search for you, so it's only sending you properties that fit within your desired location, price, and other characteristics of the home, such as bed and bath count, square footage, all that good stuff. Also, feel free to look through Realtor.com or Trulia and see if there's anything else that's popped up that might catch your eye. Sometimes what you think you want doesn't end up being what you actually want, and that's okay too. Feel free to send that listing to your realtor and let them know that you want to see that house, or if you see one that comes through from the MLS search, let them know. Now, just a note for this phase of home search. You want to make sure that you're only looking at active properties. If it says active under contract or pending, contingent, you want to avoid those. Usually they go through well. If they don't, it'll pop back up as back on the market and you'll get another notification and you can go see that home. But for the most part, if you see a house that you love and it's active under contract or pending, just ignore it, act like it doesn't exist. If it pops back up, you will be notified, but the chances are usually pretty slim. Now, to avoid that heartbreak or falling in love with a house that's already under contract, make sure you set your filters to active properties only. Now, another step during this research phase is to thoroughly understand the market that you're in. So your realtor can help with this big time. Ask them all of these questions. What are the average days on market? What are they seeing as far as how quickly homes are going under contract? Do you have a little bit of wiggle room as far as negotiating, or is it a quick moving market and you're going to need to come in with your best offer? These are all important things to note that your realtor will be able to help you with. Step number 5 comes in when you've found houses that you're interested in seeing. So you reach out to your realtor, you let them know that X, Y, and Z houses are ones that are high on your list. They will go ahead and facilitate and set up some showings for those homes. So give them as much notice as you can. Most listings require 2 hours notice, some up to 24 hours or more of notice. Some have different showing instructions as far as when you can see the home and if the listing agent has to be there to meet you. All of those things will kind of go into putting together a day of showing homes that you'd want to let your realtor know. They'll go through and set it up. They'll put together a plan. They want to make sure that it's geographically correct. We're going to go here first and here last. Now, this part can actually be a lot of fun. Feel free to enjoy yourself. If you've picked the right realtor, you enjoy spending time with them, they're knowledgeable about the market and the homes and the area that you're looking in, this can be fun. You'll go out, check out all the homes on your list. Sometimes this will be multiple days, sometimes it'll be different showings as houses pop up. But really, you'll be able to further tailor what it is that you like and don't like about these houses so that your agent can start to further tailor your list that goes to you from the MLS as well. Now, I have had buyers fall in love with the first house that we saw and they went right under contract. Sometimes they fall in love with the first one and we end up seeing 40 other homes before they decide to go with the first one, and they'll be lucky if it's still available at that point. Sometimes it takes a ton of houses, a ton of days of showings before they find the right one. It's all very individual, so don't feel like you have to fit in any certain box. Your realtor will be there with you to answer any questions and kind of guide you through the process. So the next step in the home search process will be putting in an offer. So when you finally found a house that is the perfect one and you're ready to write an offer, your realtor will be able to guide you through this part as well, better than I will be able to right now with all this kind of broad general information that I'm giving you. The specifics of each individual home are very different. So you'll want your realtor to reach out and chat with the listing agent, see if there's anything particular that the seller would like in an offer to make it stronger, and then you guys will sit down and craft the perfect offer for you and hopefully the perfect offer for the seller and send it on over. So once your offer is accepted, that's where our part 2 video will start. I felt like this was a good segue in between the two of them. So look for next week, part 2 on how to buy a home that will give you all of the next steps after your offer is accepted. So if you can't wait until next week for part 2, you're ready to buy now, you have questions, you want to know what happens next, feel free to email me. My email will be down below in the description. I'll send you right over a copy of my extensive buyer's guide, so that way you can look through it and kind of see what happens next, see if you have any other questions that I can answer for you. Now, as always, thanks for joining me today in this video, and I will see you in part 2 next week.